the history of Atlanta is buried here. Every newcomer to Atlanta really ought to be given an orientation here, because as you walk through the cemetery and read the names in the gravestones, they're the names of all the streets and buildings of Atlanta and many in Georgia.
I think that the possibility of strolling without having cars zooming by you is nice. I think the ability to get lost in poetry by reading the epitaphs is something else that people look for. People who like photography can take pictures. We often have people who have sketch pads or easels, and they'll be out here painting. So I think if you're into passive recreation and reflection and quiet, it's a great place to come.
For me, it's the history of Atlanta, because you can start in 1850 and you can kind of trace the development of Atlanta with who is here, and you can judge their success in Atlanta by the kind of monument they have.
In 1850, Atlanta was a settlement. It's become sort of the gateway to the South, and the cemetery represents the history of the state, actually, not just the city of Atlanta. And it's also representative of America, with all the different immigrants that we had who moved here, came to Atlanta from, we have graves where it shows where they came from Ireland, where they came from Hungary, where they came from Russia, all of these different places, and came to Atlanta, worked hard, and ended up dying here and are buried in Oakland. So that's sort of the American story of people coming from elsewhere for a better life.
Well, this is our link to the past. This is all we've got. This is the only ground that hasn't changed since the city was born, since 1850. I tell my students out here, we go to that first 6 acres. This is the only land that hasn't changed since the city was born. And to have a place that hasn't changed, that is our link to the past, as Oakland says about itself, I think that's just so very important, that we have this link.
There are so many lives once lived, and so many stories still to be told. An extraordinary spiritual adventure awaits all those who enter the gates of the historic Oakland Cemetery.